This is our second video about logarithms, and in this video we're going to do some more examples to get you fluent with how to calculate logarithms. Right? Specifically, we're going to look at some of the trickier examples to really get you some practice and to really get you thinking about logarithms in a way that will be useful. Alright, before we actually do that, we're going to take a look at some exponents, because really the key to understanding logarithms is first understanding exponents. And I'm actually going to have you evaluate these on your own. Right? If you get a lot of these wrong, then I'm going to suggest that you go back and do some review on exponents. On the website I will have links to optional things for you to do, for you to review. Right? Again, that's if you get a lot of these wrong, you really should do some review. Okay, so go ahead and pause and go ahead and evaluate these evaluate these exponents. Alright, so let's see how you did, and remember, we're doing this so that you will be successful with your exponents. Okay, so 9 squared, right, that should be 9 times 9, which we know is 81. Right, 9 to the negative second power. Right, when we have a negative power, that means we're doing the opposite. So instead of multiplying 9 2 times, we're really dividing by 9 2 times, right? So this is 1 divided by 9 times 9, right? So 1 over 81. Right, 9 to the 1/2. Right, first semester we talked about half powers. Right, so that 1/2 power is the same thing as a square root. So this is the square root of 9, which is 3. Okay, moving on, 1/9 squared. That's just 1/9 times 1/9, which is 1 over 81. All right, what about 1/9 to the negative second? Okay, so again, we're not going to be multiplying 1/9 times itself, right? We're going to be dividing, right? And when you divide by a fraction, it's going to be inverted, right? So this is the same thing as 9 squared, which is 81. Okay, all right, next one. We've got 1/9 to the 1/2. Again, this means a square root. It's the square root of 1/9, which is 1/3. All right, and then lastly, this one is probably the trickiest one. You've got 9 to the negative 1/2. Okay, again, we've got that negative exponent, right? So that means we're doing it's the inverse, right? So we're not really multiplying, it's going to be a division. So this is the same thing as 1 over 9 to the 1/2, or in other words, 1 over the square root of 9, right? Which is 1/3. Alright, so hopefully that was review, and hopefully you did really well with that. Right, if not, then again, I recommend you go back and watch some of our old videos on exponents, specifically fractional exponents and negative exponents are probably what you might need some review on if you got a lot wrong. Okay, so I will have links to that on our webpage. Alright, so let's do some logarithms now. Okay, so reminder, here's our definition that we used last time. Right, the logarithm of a number is the exponent to which a fixed value, the base, must be raised to produce that number. Right, so we'll do a couple of these together to get ourselves warmed up, and then you're going to try some. Okay, all right, so if I have this, the log of 64 with base 4, right, remember, or I should say, the way we read this is log base 4 of 64. Sorry, I said that wrong. Okay, log base 4 of 64. Right, so with this logarithm, remember, is the exponent to which 4 has to be raised to get 64. Right, and remember we did this with thought bubble here. Right, so we're thinking 4 raised to what power? That's our logarithm, would give us 64. Right, the answer is 3. Right, so now looking at this one. So log base 6 of 1 over 216. Right, so remember, logarithm, that's our exponent. Right, this is the exponent that we need to raise 6 to in order to get 1 over 216. Right, so in other words, 6 to what power would get me 1 over 216? Right, and this would be negative 3. Right, because 6 to the negative third power would be the same thing as 1 over 6 cubed, or 1 over 216. Alright, I would like you to try some. Okay, so think through it the same way. Even though we've got some fractions, think through it the same way. Okay, so go ahead and pause and do these, please. Alright, let's see how you did. Okay, alright, so we've got the log base 1/3 of 1 over 27, right? Remember, our log, that's the exponent to which we need to raise 1/3 to in order to get, let me draw my thought bubble, in order to get 1 over 27, right? So it's the exponent, right, to which we need to raise 1/3 in order to get 1 over 27, right? So what would that be? That exponent would be 3, right? Because 1/3 cubed would be 1/3 times 1/3 times 1/3, which is 1 over 27. Okay, all right, how about this one? Log base 1/3 of 9, right? So this log is the exponent to which we need to raise 1/3 to get 9. So what do I need to raise 1/3 to get 9? Right? Well, if this was 3, it would be 3 squared is 9, but it's not 3. This is 1/3, right? So this needs to be -2, right? Because 1/3 raised to the negative second, right? That's the same thing as 3 squared, which is 9. Okay? All right, so this logarithm is equal to -2. All right, just a couple other ones, right, to get you to do some practice. Maybe we'll do this first one together, and then you'll finish the last two. All right, log base 64 of 8. Okay, and all these, we're really going to be thinking about these the same way, right? Right, so kind of do our little thought bubble, right? So our log, it's our exponent to which we need to raise 64 in order to get 8. Right, so let's think about this. 64, we need to raise that to what exponent to get 8, right? And that exponent there, that's the logarithm. Right? So what exponent do I need to raise that to? How do I get from 64 to 8? Right? Well, it must be the square root. So what exponent tells us to take a square root? And that's 1/2. Right? Because 64 to the 1/2 power, that's the same thing as the square root of 64, which is 8. All right, I'd like you to finish the last two. All right, again, go through that same process. Go ahead and pause and finish this, please. Okay, the log base 125 of 5. All right, so the logarithm is the exponent that we need to raise 125 to get 5. So what would I need to raise 125 to in order to get 5? Well, if this was backwards, we know 5 cubed would get us 125. But we don't want it to go that way. We want to go the other way. Right? So 125 to what power would get me 5? Right? And what you should be thinking about is that the cube root of 125 is 5. Right? So how do I express the cube root in an exponent form? Right? That's the same thing as 125 to the 1/3 power. That's the cube root. Okay, so the answer here is 1/3. Okay, and last one, log base 1 over 36 of 1/6. Right, so our logarithm is the exponent that we need to raise 1 over 36 to in order to get 1/6. So what could I raise 1 over 36 to get 1/6? Right? And you should be thinking about square root here. Right? We could square root this in order to get 1/6. So what power represents a square root? It's the power 1/2. Right? And it's because 1 over 36 to the 1/2 power, that's the same thing as saying the square root of 1 over 36. Okay, which is the same thing as 1/6. All right, so hopefully you were successful with that. If you're having a little bit of trouble with this, I really recommend going back and doing a review of fractional exponents and or negative exponents. All right, and we'll practice some more in class.